Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this lately. It's part of my, let's call it content creation conundrum that I've been having here lately. And this is perhaps going to be one of the most unedited, sort of rawest videos. Camera is probably going to be shaky, the audio is not going to be great, but I don't care because that's kind of the point of this video. So let me explain. Um, Let me paint this picture for you, I guess. Maybe you're having a similar problem. So you have this great idea for, some content that you're thinking of creating. You may even write it down. You have it scripted out, and you say to yourself, "Man, that's really good. Let me let it sit on the back burner for a while, and let me really think about it. Let me get all the details down. And then I'll shoot the video. In my case, I'm going to make a video, and all your equipment is set out. You've got everything ready, but somehow, and for whatever reason, life gets in the way because things happen. Job, work, wife, 2 kids in my case, and the video just never gets done. That idea that you had never manifest. No matter how good you thought it was, you had it in the shower, or you were doing something boring at work and you had this great idea, or of course you're trying to sleep and it's past midnight and you're like, oh man, what a great idea. I'm going to get right on this. And in the morning you have no enthusiasm at all to do the thing that you were thinking about. And the video it never gets done, or whatever sort of creative thing you're trying to do, it never gets done. It's a week passes by, 2 weeks, 6 months, nothing. And in my case, you have a backlog of like 20 different things that you want to do, and none of them happen. And so that's sort of what I have been going through. And it's funny because I have all of this nice equipment. I have, more than one camera, nice cameras. I'm lucky enough to be in that position. I have nice lighting. I'm going to actually show you. I'm going to walk over there. I'm going to show you why it is that I actually tore down some of the equipment that I have to make quote unquote really nice videos, and why I am stripping it all down. And I'm going to explain this in a minute. I'm stripping it all down and making it as small as possible, as accessible as possible, because sort of the point of this video is that perfectionism is stifling. And I'm probably going to use both of those words, perfectionism and stifling, way too many times in this video, and that's okay, because it's what's been happening to me. I've been a perfectionist probably since kindergarten. It's a kind of a funny thing to say, but it's sort of true. And I think it was Peter McKinnon, who's also, in case you don't know, he's a kind of a famous photographer, Canon ambassador here on YouTube. He took off like 6 or 7 years ago. That's not even the point. The point is, one of the things he said, I heard him say it years ago, and for some reason, all these years later, it's just now beginning to resonate with me, because I have seen content creators come and go. I've seen people just get up one morning and decide, I'm just going to do this, and I have, 1 million subscribers overnight. And they seem to, sometimes it's a bit irritating to see those people pass you by. And I've been myself, I'm not a big channel, and that's kind of mostly my fault, and it's because of a lack of consistency. But one of the reasons you're not consistent, and I'm not consistent, is because of this thing that Peter McKinnon was saying, is that sometimes perfectionism is the enemy of progress, something like that. He would also say something along the lines of, done is better than perfect. And the reason for that is because, again, perfectionism sometimes is stifling. You have all these creative ideas and you don't actually act on them. And it's because you've set such high expectations for yourself or the project or whatever it may be. And it causes you to freeze. And so, again, you're going to hear a lot of ums and ahs, and you're going to hear me thinking aloud. And that's on purpose. This camera is not steady. That's also on purpose. So let's get moving, because that gives the illusion of the story moving forward. I think I heard that from Dr. House one time. He's a funny dude. We're moving around. We're walking around aimlessly. But let me show you something. Let me show you something that I was just referring to. Let me turn these lights on real quick, because this area here is my quote-unquote studio. It's very bare bones, and there's a reason for it. I broke everything down on purpose because, let me show you this angle, I guess. Usually, my camera would be about right here. I'd have a different lens on, but basically, there's lights back there, and I'd turn some of these lights off, and I'd balance everything to how I wanted it. But that was kind of the point. So normally I would sit here, there's my chair, and I would have, that's one of my lights over there. It's not even plugged in right now. I took it down again on purpose. I would have my laptop ready. I would have my microphone plugged into my audio interface. I'd have my tripod set really nicely over here. I'd have my nice camera. I'd have my let me just turn this around. You're just seeing a bare bones desk essentially. But I'd have my camera on a tripod. I would have my monitor ready so that I can look at it. I could see if my colors were right, if my focus was right, if my lighting was right. I'd have a diffusion panel on this side. I would declutter my background. I would turn on all of my nice lights so you'd have, a little bit of pop in the background. I would make sure my air conditioner was off, because you would just hear the entire time, or my heater now that it's cold. But I would get all of these things ready, and I would sit down with what would have been my script for this perfect video that I envisioned, and I would freeze. And part of it was because there's this pressure to meet this perfect expectation that you have. And so this idea, however good, it didn't matter, because it wasn't going to be written down, it wasn't going to be executed, it wasn't going to be put on video, so it just wasn't happening. So if you have this problem, let me know in the comments if you're trying to fix it, if there's something that you're trying to do about it. This is what I have found. And I found out more recently, and part of the reason is because I've been trying to document some family history. So I've been talking to my parents and trying to get stories from when we were kids, or even before we were born, me and my siblings, that is. And as I was talking to my dad about this, I wanted to get my camera out and just hit record. And I didn't care what the lighting looked like. I didn't care that I didn't have the best lens. I didn't have the best setup. My camera was shaky. And guess what? It did not matter. It didn't matter, because the stories that my parents were telling were so compelling. Sometimes they were sad. Sometimes they were funny. Sometimes they just had a nice lesson to be learned. And that was way more important than all this other stuff, all this other fluff. Now, I'm not saying throw all your equipment away. I'm not saying that at all, because there is a time and a place. I make short films on this channel. I make other tutorials and things. And sometimes you want things to be very technical. There's a time and place. But for most of the content that you're creating, like this video, it should be easily accessible to you. And what I've noticed is that to try to get over that kind of a stage fright, or being frozen, or being too worried about the video being perfect, what you need to try to do is set a goal so that your camera that you're recording on, it could be your cell phone. Most people just shoot on their cell phone. Make the camera your friend. And what I mean by that is, when you are comfortable enough to talk to the camera like you're talking to a friend or a family member or some other loved one, then you're not hung up on the words that you're using. You're not afraid to be wrong. You're in a informal environment where you can just talk. And sometimes getting that idea down, it will allow it to turn into something better. It will be more useful. It will be more functional for you. And so how do you do that? Well, you make your setup, in my case, really compact. Right now, I have a small tripod that I'm shooting on. I have what camera? I have my lightest, smallest lens that I own, a very small video light on top of my cold shoe, and I have the smallest, crappiest microphone that I own. And guess what? It gets the job done better than all of that other fancy gear that I have. Why? Because done is better than perfect. And so you want to get to the point where the tools that you are using to create the things that you're passionate about are easily accessible to you, so that they get done. That you want your camera gear and whatever, maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're a musician, you do something creatively in performance, and you need practice. Practice is so important, and the more you practice it, the more accessible it is to you, the better you're going to be at it. And if you don't do that, then making 5 perfect videos a year, in my opinion, now, after having experienced all this, is not as good as making 1 every week. That would be 52 times a year. Because you're going to learn so much more about yourself, how you operate, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. And you're going to get those ideas down. And you don't want to lose those ideas. So I think there's a time limit between the conception of an idea and the execution of that idea. If you wait too long, it doesn't happen. So I guess the whole point of this video is make it as easy as possible for you to hit record. If you're a musician, make sure that your instrument or your voice is always accessible to you. I'm a musician. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got guitars hanging in the background. I have a keyboard upstairs. I have another keyboard over here. And if those things are put away, you never practice. I've noticed. So make it as accessible as, like, when you wake up in the morning, you get dressed for work, you use the bathroom, you have a cup of coffee, whatever your morning routine is, you do that every day out of necessity. You do it because that's what you do. That's how you get started for your day. What if for 5 minutes a day, whatever your passion is, you do it because it's accessible to you. You do it for 5 minutes a day. And after it, that's just 5 minutes. Some people, once you get started, you'll realize that you'll just go on for 20, 30 minutes, an hour, if it's something you really love, and you'll spend the whole day doing that thing because it's something you love. It's not like a job, So this is a reminder to myself and to you, the viewer, and hopefully you get something out of this. I will come back and view this video myself when I get stuck, because my goal now it's 2025, is not to wait months before I create something. So I want to be more consistent. I want to get better at this. So keep an eye on this channel. I have other channels because what I said, it spills over into other things that I'm doing. Let me show you that real quick. I have another setup over here because I am going to start doing some videos I got different game consoles and stuff. It's probably too dark, but I have a Sega Genesis, a Nintendo 64. I got my Xbox hooked up. I'll have my Nintendo Switch. I've got lights. I have all this streaming capability. I got another camera set up to try to do some streaming. And, but anyway, this video is getting too long, but the point is, if you want consistency, make it easy, make it accessible. Do the thing that you love. You won't be, and it won't be so cumbersome. Yeah. All right. See you guys in the next one, and hopefully it's not years before that happens. Bye. Man, this is okay. When you're trying to